Hello, I'm Eileen Roche, and welcome to today's episode of Between Friends. I'm so glad that you joined us today. And if you have any embroidery friends that you think would enjoy learning about applique, text them, send them a note, tell them to jump in and join in the fun. You know, applique is something that we all enjoy doing, or maybe some of you haven't really gotten your feet wet yet. I can tell you, it's adds an awful lot of pop to your embroidery without any additional weight or thread, right? It's just beautiful fabric, and there's so many choices. So many of you are watching. Retha Ranke, you were the first one here. We love that. It's always so great to have you here. And she said earlier, she's not sure how she ever did embroidery without her monster hoops. I agree. I remember doing embroidery before the monster hoops, and I don't think I'd still be doing it if it wasn't for that. But it's so great to see all of you here. We are up in Wisconsin and California and West Tennessee. Hello from Michigan, Faye Couch and Kansas. Debbie Brooks up in Reading, PA. Go Reading Phillies, right? All right, so let's see. Oh, my good friend Isabella Chaplin from France. Hello, it's nice to see you. I owe you an email, and I'll get to that after today. And look who else is in the house. Joanne Banco from Let's Go Sew. You know, Joanne has a beautiful applique collection with dime that we'll take a look at in a little while. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, today's is all about ramping up your applique. And, you know, there are some tips for success for sure. If you take some steps prior to creating your applique, you'll really be much more pleased with the outcome. So let me make sure I'm following along at the right place. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Before we get started, I want to remind you, it's our mega giveaway. 6 weeks, we have a winner, right? So this week is winner number 2. We will announce that at the end of today's program. If you haven't signed up, if you haven't entered, you can still do that. We'll be pulling that winner in just a little while. But you can enter every single day. So if you entered yesterday, but not today, go ahead and do it again and enter tomorrow for next week. Just go to our website, dzgns.com, click on the banner at the top, and then you will be taken to this page where you fill out the form, and then you're entered. There's a countdown. You could do this every day. So put it on your schedule so that you know what happens. So that you don't miss an opportunity. So let's talk about applique. There are 2 kinds of applique, 2 kinds of, let's say, digitized methods for applique. And one has a run stitch tack down, like you see in this image here. So that outer run stitch line is your placement guide, and the smaller one that's inside is your tack down. And then, of course, you see here, the satin is covering up both of those stitching lines so that they're not visible after the beautiful embroidery. But a run stitch is intended to be trimmed in the hoop. And why would you trim in the hoop? Well, there are different reasons. So simple shapes are easy to trim in the hoop. Circles are fairly simple. You'll just spin the hoop as you trim. Rectangles, super easy. Raw edge applique is also intended to be trimmed in the hoop after it's tacked down. So that's the intention of raw edge applique. You're going to have a little fabric showing beyond that tack down. And then if you have an embroidery design that has a run stitch placement guide and a zigzag tack down, then you know that was intended to be pre-cut. Because if you were to try to trim around that zigzag outline, your scissors wouldn't get close enough to the edge of that zigzag and have that raw edge covered by the satin. So when is that? When is the right time to expect pre-cut applique? Well, odd shapes. Look at this really fun embroidery design. You're probably wondering where I got it. I'm going to show you that in a little while. But odd shapes, spiky elements, Y seams, inner corners, all of those types of details on an applique design would tell you this would be better off if this was a pre-cut fabric that you were just placing over that placement guide. And inner openings, lots of letters, the O's and the B's, those tiny little openings. It would be really best if you pre-cut that. Now, it can be a little tricky, but there's 3 methods of pre-cutting. So we'll go over them in a moment. Now, let's see. What else to pre-cut? Layered applique. So as this watermelon border, you'll see there's 2 layers of fabric on each of those embroidery designs. So that means that's a lot of on and off with the hoop. And the less we do that to a hoop, the greater chance we have of success, correct? Because every time we take a hoop off the machine, there's the possibility of having the inner ring pop out, or having the top frame of a magnetic hoop become misaligned, shall we say, from the bottom. So it's another good reason to layered applique is to pre-cut, and also repeats. If you're doing a border and you're going to have multiple repeats of the same shape, then by all means, go ahead and pre-cut that. Your stitching will go so much faster. And Jennifer Alexander, you say you don't have a scan and cut with a sad face. That's okay. You don't have to have a scan and cut or a digital cutter. I'm going to show you 2 other methods that you can use for pre-cutting. And let's see, Rita, you love doing machine embroidery applique. Me too. It's super fun. Let's see. And Cindy King, you always have to think about the design. Does the satin stitch run on the inside of the trim, or do I have a little room on the outside? The satin stitch, the final satin stitch covers the tack down and the placement guide. So that's the purpose of both, the position of both of those outlines, is that they are, and you can control that in some software, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But you can control where that tack down and placement guide sits, because you most certainly want to cover both with the satin stitch. Okay, let's see. Oh, look at Patricia Eager is over in Maui. Hi, hope you're having a lovely day there. Love it in Maui. It's just beautiful. Had my honeymoon there. Okay, so let's see. Moving on. Oh, I think I'm supposed to go over and show you some samples. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So here we have, here's a sample of repeats, right? So look at these really fun outlines. This is the same circle size on each applique, but we have some really fun decorative details that are added around that satin. Now, I did match my color satin to my applique fabric, but I could have stitched this satin line in a different color thread, and it would have been more visible. But my goal was to just have it all kind of blend as, one big sun, right? Here we kind of have a little lacy doily effect. How cool is that? Really beautiful. Another lacy doily effect. And then this is just jagged zigzags, all the way around, just adding some punch, right, to the satin. Really fun. Okay, and then here's my little layered applique. So I have my watermelon fruit is first, and then of course the rind is second. So, that's on and off, and I'm going to show you how we can cut this using a template. We don't have to have a digital cutter to cut that out. So let's go back and see what's next. E-stitch. Yep. That's a, let's take a look at this sample. So on the E-stitch, here we have a perfect E-stitch, right? And this is the goal of E-stitch, to have the fabric edge encased in that bite of the E-stitch. It is a zig, or a zag. I don't really know which one we call that, but that's the run stitch, right? That runs along the outside edge of the applique, and then it bites into the fabric. That's what holds it in place. Now, this was definitely pre-cut so that I could get that nice clean edge. These two were not pre-cut. And you can see I have a lot of fabric kind of hanging out along that tack down. And if I were to try to trim this, you could see up here, I wasn't able to get as close as I would like, right? And definitely we still need to finish this. But that's the difference between a pre-cut and a trim in the hoop. So my preference for E-stitch is always to pre-cut my shapes. Of course, I am going to use a fusible web on the wrong side of my applique fabric. And I always use our Fuse Me, which is a very lightweight fusible web that I apply to my fabric first before I do any cutting. And we'll cover that in a moment also. Okay, so when else do we do pre-cutting? Fussy cutting. So let's go ahead and take a look at that sample. Here is a beautiful floral design that is included in our software. And I had some Kaffe faucet fabric that just had this big, beautiful bloom. And so I wanted to make sure that the center of that bloom was going to land in the center of my applique so that it really gave a realistic look to my embroidery. So how do we do that? Well, we start with our fabric, right? And as you can see, maybe this isn't Kaffe, but so pardon me, forgive me, Kaffe. So here is lots of different blooms, and they're large. Look how big they are, right? They're like, 3 inches or more. So I print my template out and I cut it out on the inside. And then I take that template and now I can position it right over that bloom. And then I can cut out inside, right? I can see exactly how it's going to be positioned. Let me just bring that up a little closer to the camera so you can get a better look. So we lose all of this extra. But isn't that awesome? So how did I do that? Well, I just print my template on our print and stick target template paper. And this is the interior of the design. And of course, this is tacky, right? This is going to stick to my finger. It's awesome. But I just cut this out right there and I saved the border. So I cut it paper doll style, and I could also use this. It's translucent somewhat, but the window technique really gives me the ability to see that flower. So let's go ahead. I'll just position this one so you can see. Of course, we have new template paper now that is even more translucent than this sample that I have here, and you can really see through it. But if you don't have print stick target template paper and you're using regular paper, then you can use this method also, okay? Creating a window, really fun. Get that fussy cutting just perfect. All right, let's see what's next. So how do we go from a run to a zigzag? Well, here's my special trick, right? That's our software. So I'm going to go into Patch and Applique Maker, and if we could switch over to Patch and Applique Maker, no wonder she's not switching. She's waiting for me to switch. Okay, there we go. So Patch and Applique Maker is our software, a software program that handles patches and applique, and it has thousands of embroidery designs preloaded in it. And if you're a full-blown digitizer and you have our Perfect Embroidery Pro and you can draw, then you have the ability to make any applique out of any drawing that you make. But if you're like me, and maybe you're a little artistically challenged, or you're just, happy to get stitching and not have to worry about digitizing or drawing on your own, then you might enjoy Patch and Applique Maker. So let's take a look at what's inside Patch and Applique Maker. It has a library of embroidery designs that you can choose from, all kinds of topics. We have baby. Look at all these adorable things for a newborn baby or a toddler. We have some back to school designs. We have some baking, great Christmas, cute animals, gardening. I mean, it goes on and on. We have a lot of military motifs, and we have musical instruments. Super fun. We have ribbons and ribbon rockers. These are the type of appliques that we use to flank other elements in an embroidery design. Think about like a center chest t-shirt or a jacket back, and you can make these as big as you want. There's so many different things you can do in here. But remember we talked about Joanne Banco having a collection? Well, if you have our software and you purchase Joanne's collection, then you can just, when it's installed, it will install right into that software program so that you have access to her applique designs. And they're adorable. We have those folk art and the mini rose collection and also the stars. It's kind of like a whole, mini collections, 3 mini collections to get really great different jackets. Isn't that fun? So there's so much that you can do with this software. Notice these tiny little designs that are a part of this big jacket back design. Well, we call them charms. And not only are they included in Joanne's collection, but they're also included in the software. So let's take a look at them. Here's that pal and wow, but this one is tiny. This one is not applique. Look at the size. It's only 1.5 inches by 1.3 inches. Super tiny. But let's go ahead and find the companion to that in applique. So here's our wow. And now you can see just how big that is. And I'm going to, without changing any sizes, that's the difference between a charm and an applique. Now, a charm has fill stitches. It doesn't have any applique fabric in it. It's intended to be used as an accent on other pieces. But this applique is a 2-layered applique design. And right now, when it comes in, it's grouped. So I will ungroup it. And you have the ability to do a lot of different things to this. Like you can most certainly change the size. You can also change the style from trim in the hoop to pre-cut. So I'm going to phone a friend who works with me here at Dime and helped create this software. And that's my good friend, Roy Garland. And I'm going to bring him in and we're just going to chat about the software together. And
Hi, everybody.
He's going to take over.
Oh,
So, hey, Roy.
hello.
Good to have you here. One of the cool things about this program is that we created these style sheets. And the style sheet is a preset menu. See the little t-shirt I'm clicking on? Whose software are we in? Okay, let's stay here. And from this drop-down menu, we have lots of different choices. So I could make that a raw edge bean applique. Let's go ahead and apply that and see what happens to our embroidery design. Now you'll see those satin stitches are gone. And this could be a raw edge applique if I so desired that look. Probably doesn't work that well because of those extended points. But I also have some other applique choices. I can do a pre-cut applique and we'll hit OK. And now when I do my color sequence preview, you'll notice there's my tack down in zigzag. See that? And also, you have to select both elements of a design if you want it to be pre-cut. So I'm going to undo that and then also run that color sequence, color simulator, so you can see its default setting is to trim in the hoop. See that yellow line? That is intended for those who are going to trim in the hoop. But again, I told you this is probably not a good design to use the trim in the hoop method with, right? Roy, what else do we have in there? It's fun stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, we got good stuff in here.
I have a sample of the charms that I just want to show over in the overhead. So here you can see just how tiny they are. See the scissors? I mean, they're really small, and the tape measure. And again, like I said, it's satin and fills, so it's not all applique. These appliques I actually drew in the software because I can draw a little bit. And these pattern pieces are stitched on our no-show mesh stabilizer, kind of translucent, just like a pattern would be. So then I added that micro text on the pattern, just like you would on the, well, you wouldn't add it on your pattern, it would already be printed on there. And this software does come with some fabulous fonts. First off, it most certainly comes with applique fonts. And Roy, how many applique fonts are there? Maybe you'll show on the window while I kind of show some of these stitch outs. Okay. This is Hobo and Cooper. This is Bauhaus, which I have several stitch outs of. It's just really fun lettering, really, really fun lettering. Notice the difference in the size. We've blown them up, we've shrunk them down. The software handles all of that for you so that you don't have to worry about losing integrity of the design, because it's software. You can change that size as big or as small as you like, right, Roy?
That's correct. We have 11 fonts and 1 monogram.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at Roy's window so we can see. Yeah, and the tiny little micro fonts are what I showed you on the pattern. And how many of those do we get, Roy?
On the micro fonts, we get 3. We get Arial and Brush and this one here.
Awesome. Always something, applique and patches often have tiny micro fonts in them, right? There's messages that you want to include. So Cindy Clauser wants to know, what kind of software is this? So this is Patch and Applique Maker software. We use the acronym PAM here, but it loads in our embroidery tool shed. And Roy, maybe you would show your shopping cart down there in the right corner, so that people see all of our software loads into Embroidery Toolshed. And in fact, Embroidery Toolshed is our free program, and you can use that to resize embroidery designs, to print templates, to copy, paste, and repeat designs. But once you install that on your computer, you have demo versions of all of our software. So if you have Embroidery Toolshed on your computer right now, you could go into Patch and Applique Maker and play along with us. You won't be able to save the design, but you can at least see what all of its features are.
Yes, and you can turn those on by doing the 3 dots here. It'll say demo mode.
Great. That's also when you're going to install, right? You would, when you do purchase and you have your download, your activation code and all of that. So, yeah, really makes it easy. Let's go. So Joanne Banco says she loves those microfonts for making labels for quilts, of course, but she likes making size labels. Oh, for garments. Great idea. She's brilliant. That is really a great idea. I never thought about the size, that especially, like if you're making, garments for yourself, or even, for grandchildren, and how they change size so quick, and then you want to use it as a hand-me-down. It's good to know what the size is for sure. Okay, so what else is in this software, Roy? I think we should show the menu with some of the other features in the, let's draw a shape. How about those circles? Okay.
I have a circle here, but you can also have pre-done applique shapes here, a whole listing of different ones we have available for you.
Awesome. And so just with a click, we can turn that, it comes in as an applique, right? Why don't you go ahead?
It comes in as on, like this, we do a shamrock.
Okay.
And it comes in automatically as that. But if you want to, you can come in here, like you were discussing before, you can change how you want it to be. If you want it to be a pre-cut applique, it changes all the numbers right here to make this sew properly. So if we want to see how that generates.
Nice.
Well, there you go on that.
Yeah.
You can also, once you get your applique here, you got fabrics that you can add to it just for a visual. Like let's say I add a blue. And then you can come in here and just for fun, we can go ahead and add a little charm. So
a little Irish dog.
Little Irish dog. What else do we have in this? We have, like you were discussing before, we have the fonts.
Yep.
You can select the fonts you want right here. One nice feature is, let's say I select this one here, but I'm not sure what the sizes should be.
Mm-hmm.
If you hover over this, it'll tell you recommended sizes and ranges and what letters are available in that font with a quick look.
Right. You know, Roy, we have Judith Thorpe wants to know, does it make an SVG file? And it sure does. And we're going to show that in a minute when we get back to the circles.
Okay.
So, and then also Kathy Sargenti says, do we know that the Mac version of Toolshed, we are working on the update to the Mac version so that it's compatible with the latest Mac operating system. Takes a little bit of time to get all these things happening. So bear with us. She's missing her My Block Piecer software. So okay. I feel your pain. I know what she means. Okay, and someone else asked, how do you change the thread palette? So let's switch over to my laptop if we could. And I'll just show you, I have Oops set up there. And here is all of my thread. I always use exquisite thread, but you may want to change your palette. So you can click on that little fan down in the right-hand corner. It looks like a swatch board of colors, swatch book of colors. And then from the drop-down menu, these are all of the palettes that you can convert to. Everything from the Viking palette all the way to Anchor, Angel King, and so on. So and then when you click OK, so here we'll go and we'll change to King Star, and then we'll click OK. And now all of my colors are matched to that library, that palette. And then I most certainly can go back and to my exquisite thread for sure. But it's really handy. You can also set your palette in general options. So you would go to Tools at the top of the page, General Options, and here on the first page in Environment, you select your default palette. And then every time you open your software will be set for the thread that you use. I love that. I think that's really a handy feature because it can be kind of unnerving, when I am working when somebody else comes in to say.
Another nice thing is that auto converts the colors for you. So between palettes and whatnot, it's very nice.
Yeah. Okay, so people want to see. Let's go back to Roy's laptop so I can find what I'm looking for. Right.
Okay, so I'll play around here a little bit. I got a circle. You can, if you go into the Applique settings here, you got all these different types you can change that Applique into, from tackle twirl to the E-stitch that Eileen was showing earlier. You can even play with symbols, which you're going to talk about symbols in a little while, right?
Yeah, we will for sure, because I have that really cute. Where is my little?
Another way to take, like if you have artwork up, like you can create, let's say we create a triangle ourselves. I could select the triangle and simply just click on, make it an applique. Or make it a steel or a running. We also have a very nice feature called Applique with stipple. So you can pick one of these and it'll add stippling on top of the material.
Right. And you can change that, the openness, and you can change the settings of that. So maybe it's not so dense. So show that a little bit more open.
Let me see if I can remember how to do that.
Oh, just right.
Oops.
Yeah. Well, that was your applique. Okay. Well, sorry, I put you on the spot. That's not fair.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I got it here. Let me see. There you go.
Awesome.
Just changing the stitch length, or the pattern length right here will do that.
Right.
So
Open that up a little bit. So let's see. Pat wants to know, is there a cheat sheet that explains the different types of applique with pictures? Well, there is in-app videos on many of the icons that are in the software. You just hover the mouse over the icon, and then a little text box will appear, and that's pretty tiny. You may not be able to see that, but it says click F1 or F2.
It's F2.
F2, and then you'll be able to view a video. There is also a built-in manual that has all of the explanations of all these different features. And with your purchase of the software, you get some education. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, let's switch over to my screen. And here you can see I have this really fun make a splash. These shapes, the water, are just raw. They're intended to be on HTV vinyl or just raw edge with not even any stitching around it. I'm just fusing it onto the fabric. And I did cut that out on a cutter. But here, let's go ahead and select the little wellies, right? And I'm going to see what that, I want to make sure it's set for pre-cut applique and click OK. And then with that still selected, I'll click on my cutter tool right there. And this window appears. There's my little wellies. How cute are they? Now, I have different options here. I can cut this. I can print this on paper. So as you see, I can just print right on paper. And if it were me, I would put my print and stick target template paper into my printer, and I would cut out the template on that type of paper. And I'll show you that in a moment. Or I can I can go in here and then select a mat, like a cutting mat, 12 by 12, and then I'm going to hit save. And I would save that as a SVG or an FCM. So here we have an SVG, and I'll just do wellies, which I've already done like 10 times. So I'll do wellies 8. And when I save it, a window appears, and in that window is the actual SVG file, which is right here. And then there's a PDF giving me a preview, so I know what fabric it is, and it tells me, the size and so forth. So super handy. Then I just send that to my machine. Okay. All right, so let's go over to, why don't we go over to this, this overhead cam, and I'll show you how you would work with some of these things. So let's start with the wellies. We have these right here. And here's my embroidery design. You can see here, okay, can we just bring that up full screen? You can see that I fused this blue fabric down. I didn't even stitch it. That was my intention. I most certainly could have added stitches to it, but this was just a kind of fast sample. And then here's my wellies that I cut out on my digital cutter. And I've stitched my first outline, my placement guide. And of course, I stitched that in black thread so that you could see it in this sample. But in reality, if this was going to be like a quilt block or something, then I would have stitched that probably in orange fabric, in orange thread, so I wouldn't see it that well. And then I would take my iron and just quickly fuse that in place, just so that it stays in place, and then go back to the machine and then stitch that outline. And that's how fast it is. It's really awesome. Yep. Okay, so now what about paper templates? Well, let's take a look at them. So here here's our little t-shirt, right? Our little onesie of the watermelon. Remember, it's 2 layers of applique. And so for the paper templates, I have added, here's my print and stick target template paper. And I have the Fuse Me on the wrong side. And I would just peel this off. So I had this on my fabric, just like the green here. And then I just trim right on that outline. I'm going to put my scissors right at the edge of that template. You don't have, you have a little wiggle room, right? You can be a little outside, you could be a little inside, but really you want to nail that blade, those scissors right on the stitch line, right on that outline, I should say. And then when I remove my paper, here is my applique all ready to be placed down on my fabric. So super easy. Okay. Now we have another method. Which is in the hoop. So let's take a look at that. This is super fun. All right, so here's my embroidery design. I showed this to you like a week or so ago when we were doing shimmer and shine, right? So this is applique, and I first stitched, this is my finished sample, but I am in the process of number 2. And so on this one, I've stitched my lettering and the placement guide for the glasses. Now I need to get that applique. So what I did is, and because I'm going to make a couple of these, I have 2 layers of fabric here. So first thing I did was hoop just tearaway stabilizer. And then I'm going to pull this out of the hoop. And I'm going to cut right on that outline. I'm going to cut right on that outline because that outline is the same as that print outline that I just showed you on the print and stick Target template paper or just regular copy paper. And I'm just going to leave a little fabric here over the bridge of the glasses because it just is really like a satin there. And it's a little tricky. So I'm going to peel this back and show you how many layers I have here. I have 2 layers of fabric, but I also have my Fuse Me applied, and I have not removed my material yet because I find it's easier to separate the fabrics when they're stitched together if they still have their paper attached. Otherwise, they kind of stick to each other and it can be really awkward. So I'll just go ahead and cut these out. And now, because they are stitched, we really do have to cut away that stitch line, right? Otherwise, we won't be able to pull them apart because we have 2 layers. If it was 1 layer of fabric, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. So just cut right on that outline. That takes a little bit of time. But, if you're doing like a large quilt and you have a lot of appliques like this is kind of work that I like to do in front of the television. I'll stitch these. And then, if we're watching Netflix or something, then it's easy to just do this part right at, right on at my lap, in my lap, kind of. This probably wasn't the best example to do. And it would be okay if they separated. In fact, let's just do that. It's not that big of a deal because it's only going in the lens of the glasses. You'll see what I mean when I get to that point. Okay, so now we have our stabilizer was back there. Now we want to peel these 2 apart, and let's go ahead and pull that paper off the Fuse Me. There we go. And there's my glass. Bring this over. So then I would put the other one in there also. And then when I go to stitch it, well, I'm all set. I don't know where my other lens is, but I would peel that off, put it there. And I would, apply heat with my iron. And then after I stitch the outline, that's what you're going to have. Isn't that awesome? So let's see. Can you bring a scan and cut FCM into this product and create an applique from the cut file? I don't know. Not sure about that. Do you know, Roy?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Yeah. And I don't really have the ability to do that right here on a live show, but let's see. And Delia, you say great tips. You don't mind cutting out the shapes. So I have another tip. If you are an AccuQuilt user, and well, first, let's go ahead over to my screen so I can show you the circles that I did. Look how fun they are. Aren't they cool?
They are cool.
Yeah, they really are. So first I drew my circle. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll bring up a new screen. And these are all of the different shapes that are just built in. So this is artwork. So let's just kind of draw a couple so you can see what they are. And the spiral is quite nice. And with just a click, you know, that's applique. That's applique. You could do a diamond. Goodness, they're beautiful. Now that's applique right now. That's how fast and easy it is. That's how fast and easy. I can adjust the size. I could make that into any kind of really fun outline. Like let's do the shark's tooth, you know, super cool, right? And you can play with it a little bit, make sure your points are the way you want. And, you know, you do have a lot of control here and it's an awful lot of fun. But let's go see those circles. So again, I'm going to select the ellipse. Now I can drag that and it can make me an oval. It can make a perfect circle. If I'm concerned about my that I'm not able to draw a perfect circle, well, I can hold down the shift key, or not the shift, but the control key, and now it is a perfect circle. But, you know, what if I didn't do that? And now I have an oval, but I know I want a circle. Well, I can just tell it I want a 1.25 circle, and I'll put that into the properties box and I make sure I have removed the maintain aspect ratio check mark. And then when I click apply, there's my perfect circle. So why 1.25? Well, I have an AccuQuilt die cutter, which I love to use, especially for multiples of fabric. And that's what I use to make that sample with all of those circle designs. And I'm going to show you how I cut them out. I don't have the die cutter here, but this is, you know, my sample. All those circles are the same size, right? So I learned yesterday by watching my friends over at AccuQuilt. They showed this live on their show, and I thought, oh man, what a fabulous tip that is. So I thought I would share it with you because they shared it with all of us. So here is the circle die, and they have several different dies, and this one has 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, and 1 1/4. So I selected the largest one, but instead of wasting a whole bunch of fabric, look what they taught us to do. They said, load your fabric on the area of the die that you want to cut, and then use a small cutting mat to cover that, because the cutter is only going to cut where there is a mat. So it's not going to cut any of this fabric that's hanging out over these smaller circles because there's no mat on top of it. So I did this at home, and then I brought it in to show you how cool that is and how simple it cuts those pieces. Sometimes you get a joint, you know, it's literally one thread that kind of hangs on there. But there's all my circles, and boy, is that fast. Look how fast you can cut. And, you know, with AccuQuilt, you could do 6 layers of fabric. So I could have done 2, 4, I could have done 30 little circles just with one pass. So that's an easy thing to do if you have the AccuQuilt cutter. And because you know the size of your die cut, you can set your circles in the software to match your die. So back in the software, here we are. Let's go ahead and make that an applique. And now let's go ahead and beef it up. So we'll go into the applique tab, and from our type menu, we'll go into special symbol. And if you click on the ellipse, you can go to select so you can see all of your options. So here's a doily. That's what we call it. But look how cute that is, right? And I'll make this a little larger so you get a better view. And then let's just go ahead and copy and paste that and move it over here. We'll change the color and let's change the symbol. Do something else. So here's the cone. This is a great one. Oh my goodness, there's so much impact with that, right? We'll copy and paste again, bring it down here, and let's change that symbol to one of my favorites is this wave. Oh goodness, I think that's just beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that awesome?
Nice.
Yeah, and every one of these, I can go into the style sheet and tell it I want it to be pre-cut, raw edge. Well, not raw edge, that will change everything, but it most certainly can be a pre-cut patch. It could be a pre-cut applique, and it's super easy. Oh, I think you have to do that first and then add the special effect. Right,
yes.
Roy?
Yes, you have to do that first.
Okay, so fair enough. So let's see if there's any questions. What do you need for a margin on the circles for applique? I'm thinking that when I cut manually, I cut slightly larger than the size of the applique out so I don't mess it. Okay, so let's go into, I'm going to create a new screen. And let's look at the default setting. So I have this, I can switch over to 3D view so it looks more like embroidery, but sometimes you want to see the stitches, right? So I'm going to go take the 3D view off. And here you can see that there are two run stitch lines underneath. The first one, the outer one, is your placement guide. And that is the line that you will use to cut your templates, because the inner line is your tack down and it needs to grab a piece of that fabric. So the beauty of this software is that we can change the placement guide. We could remove it totally or keep it there. And on the tack down, we can also remove that. Like on an E-stitch, you may want to remove that. You can have a run or a zigzag. And I'm just going to start fresh with a new circle just in case I have something set in there that I'm not happy with. Select it. I'm an applique. And right now I am a run. So I'm going to change this from a satin to an E-stitch and click apply. And boy, is that a nasty E-stitch, right? Nobody wants that, I can tell you. So first thing we want to do is select that and go into the properties box. And now I want to change the inset of the tack down. Correct, Roy?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm going to do that at 100%. And that's moved my tack down to the outside. And my placement guide is still inside the E-stitch. And that's because I want my fabric to be cut larger than my placement guide. My fabric must cover the placement guide. And that's why you have the control over where the tack down goes. Right, Roy?
That's correct. You have so much control over anything you want to do with the appliques.
Right. So, Marcia says, what do she wants to know, what is the margin? Well, I can't really give you a number because it's really like a percentage thing. It's so tiny.
Yeah, it's a percentage of what the size. Yeah, you can't really get the number.
Mm-hmm.
It's a percentage of the width of the. Yeah, sorry.
The satin stitch.
Yeah, the satin stitch.
The satin or the E-stitch, so that's what you're controlling. But just know that's the line that you need to use is the tack down. Your fabric is going to be bigger than your placement guide and same size as your tack down, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That was pretty fun, right? What else do we have? So Jan, she's got a pretty in-depth question here about, can you change that we're not really going to talk about that. I'm sorry, Jan, just because it's really in depth and this is not really a lesson. I apologize. So let's see. When you're using that with AccuQuilt, you select a larger circle so that you get the coverage. Actually, no. What I did, I read AccuQuilt packaging, and it says it's a 1 1/4 inch circle. That's what it's going to cut. And in my software, I started with a 1 1/4 inch circle. And then the software applies the placement guide, the tack down, and the satin stitches in the correct area. So I imagine if I were to measure from outside of the satin to outside of the satin, it's going to be a little bit wider or longer than 1.25, just a little bit, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, because the 1.25 is going to be in the middle of the satin stitch. And of course, I can control the width of my satin stitch. So let's go back into my software. And the default is 3.5. But hey, I might be going for a really crazy look, or for whatever reason, I might be using terry cloth applique. That's a challenge, but you could. And so then I would bump up my applique width to 6.0. And of course, my inset was still set at 100% because I changed it. So now let's take that off so maybe we can see. Okay, now look at the difference between the distance of that placement guide and tack down. So my placement guide still in the center of my satin, but further away from the edge, right? And of course, my tack down much further away from the outside edge of the satin. And that's because it's all working on percentages, and it's perfect. It's just flawless. Thank goodness we don't have to figure out that math, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and Jennifer, you're welcome. Yeah, they're fun for sure. Okay, let's see. And so Joanne Banco to the rescue. She just imported an FCM file into the dime patch and applique maker and turned it into an applique with one click. She's ready to send it to the machine to test it out. Looks great on screen. That's awesome. Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was really helpful. Okay, so I just want to make sure we are answering all the questions. All right. So let's see. And where do we go next from this? So, if you are using or if you love applique and you want to create your own perfect patch and applique maker, is really an easy program to use, to learn, and to just embrace every day, because it has so many built-in embroidery designs with it.
Thousands and tools to make you successful.
Yeah. And that's always our goal here at Dime, right? Is to make you successful.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you can just imagine that today's program is brought to you by Patch and Applique Maker, and there's a special on that, and it's $399, and it comes with 5 embroidery software success lessons, PDF lessons that explain lots of the features in the software. And you also get a 30-minute private lesson over Zoom with a Dime educator. And we encourage you to, once you buy this software, you can access it immediately. You'll download it, you'll receive it in an email, you'll download it onto your hard drive, and you can get going right away. You have the ability to load it on 2 different computers. And of course, all Dime software, you get free updates for life. So, our friend here who said that, it's not compatible with the latest operating system of Mac. Well, she doesn't have to buy a new update to the software to make it compatible. She just has to be a little patient until our developers get caught up with the Mac.
And
now, Microsoft releases it early to all developers. So we're always ahead of the game with Microsoft. But with the Apple products, there's just a little bit of a wait. So, and don't forget, you have those in-app videos, you have the manual that's in there. We have a Facebook group, Inspiration Software, where you can get instant access to many of our educators and other users that are experts themselves, for sure. So you get a lot of answers to questions, and super fun. I hope you'll join in. I can tell you that. Jennifer Alexander says she loves Pam. She didn't know it has all those features. It's the truth. Like so many times we're not really sure, how to use it. And we don't get in there every day. The best way to get great at your software is to use it every day. Yep. Okay, so Ellen Buck says, it seems AccuQuilt adds a 1/4 inch to all their dies for 1/4 inch seams. That is true, but not on their shape dies. So I'm making this name up, okay? I don't work for AccuQuilt. I'm just telling you, this is my consumer experience, right? So when you're doing the half square triangles and flying geese and all of that, yes, they do add a 1/4 inch, but not on their shape dies. So a 1 1/4 inch circle in AccuQuilt is a 1 1/4 inch finished circle. They are intended as applique to be used. They're not going to be pieced into something. So, okay. All right, let's see. So where are we at? So, well, we still have lots of things in store here because, we have to find out who the winner is. We have to reveal the on the house. We have to thank Roy for his expertise. Thank you, Roy. Always great to have you here.
Happy to be here, and hopefully I was helpful.
That's right. Oh, you were, for sure. Always helpful. So let's see. So what is up next? I think our next thing that we're going to do, well, we already did all the pre-cut methods. So here's my digital cutter. You can see how I cut out my wellies there. And, I have some other shapes and so forth on my mat. I hope your mat is as messy as mine. It means we're using them, right? So don't ever forget to follow along with us. And, my good friend, Ashley Jones, she's our Director of Education and Event Coordinator here at Dime. She does Software Success twice a month. And her next episode is on May 2nd at 1 o'clock Central Time. So let's see how you can be notified so you never miss an issue.
In this video, we'll show you how to subscribe to a YouTube channel and follow a Facebook page through your phone. Let's start with YouTube. First, open your YouTube app on your phone. Once you're on your home page, search for the Designs in Machine Embroidery in the search bar at the top of the screen. Click on it and go to the channel page. Once on the channel page, click the subscribe button, and that's it. You're now subscribed to the channel. Now, let's move on to Facebook. First, open your Facebook app. Once on your home page, search for Designs in Machine Embroidery in the search bar at the top of the screen. Once on the profile page, click the 3 dots and select the follow button. And that's it. You're now following the page. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Adriana. She creates many of our videos, and she is just awesome. Well, we have so many nice comments here. Like Jenny Witt says, thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
And Phil Back says she was late. She was long arming. Well, that's a great excuse. I love that, Anne. But you can always watch the replay for sure. Jennifer Alexander says that software lessons with Ashley are awesome. She is a wonderful teacher for sure. She really is. And Susan Walter wants to know, how long is Pam on sale? Well, for 1 week. It's going to be on sale for 1 week. And Delia, she's like me. She loves her Dime software programs. I don't blame you, because I know I use them every day. In fact, I hate it when I have to update my software, my laptop, right? Because I have to shut everything down for sure. Okay, so I know we're all waiting with bated breath to see what the giveaway is. But before we do that, I just want to remind you that you can still enter, but probably not for today's. And what's happening with my, okay, let's see. You can still enter in the mega giveaway. So please do, not for today, but you'll be entered in next week. So take advantage of that. You can enter every day. And today after I show you the on the house, you will be, you'll find out who the winner is. So let's go ahead and see how we can use on the house.
Here is a quick tutorial on how to use hashtags in your design post. First, on your Facebook profile page, click on the photo icon. Select the public option sharing so we can view the design once it's published. Add the image of the design you wish to share. Then add the description related to your design. Then we can go on to adding your hashtags. We suggest dime sew along, on the house, or exquisite thread. Finally, click Post.
Okay, so this week's on the house is our happy little wedding couple. How cute is that? Carrying the bride over the doorstep, right? That's not what you call it. What do we call that?
At the doorstep. What's it called? Threshold.
Threshold. Thank you. Yes, it is cute. Super cute. And next week will be our final wedding couple, and it's also our on the house project. So super cute. If you have a bride or a wedding coming up this summer, like many brides and weddings are, not brides, but weddings are planned May and June. Well, here's we have 4 cute designs for you. Okay, so the winner of the next design, and that is not my slide. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. Okay. Barbara Knapp. So a big congratulations to Barbara Knapp. You win a copy of Patch and Applique Maker, and we'll be sending that to you ASAP. So super fun. And
congrats. That's great.
Yeah, isn't that great? I know. So thank you all for watching today. And remember, sign up because next week is another great giveaway.
Take care, everybody.